On weekday afternoons in Tampa, it pays to get out before the crowds to avoid bumper-to-bumper stop traffic on our highways here. With this in mind, I'd leave my house around 3 p.m. this day, and I'd suffer the consequences of it, taking almost an hour to get into Tampa in place of the normal 30-minute drive, which is why we're seeing Amtrak 91 at 50th Street right now.
91 locomotive 334 South has an approach. South end, you see over.
Not my favorite spot on the A-line around here, but it'll do just fine today, as the 3 hours late southbound Silver Star slows into town. Mechanical issues up north would cause the train's delay, working out for me as the normal noontime train passes just after 4 p.m. Welcome back to Central Florida, everyone, specifically Tampa and its many lines and subdivisions that nowadays still carry quite the variety of traffic. I'd be out today with the afternoon off to see what I could find running, as luck quickly turned for the worse on the railroad side. But for now, some trains and crews that had a normal day at work. Most rail fans in Tampa know that traffic will always slow down in the early afternoons on any day, making mornings and evenings by far the best time to be out. This trend would continue today, as action would quickly pick up, starting with L783, the Palmetto sub-local, currently taking its train down to TS, the southernmost entrance of Yeoman Yard, and the beginning of the AZA line that ultimately ends in Bradenton. With mostly building supplies sorted between boxcars and center beams, 783 would have an ordinary train today, which we'd see again in much better light about a mile south from the yard. A quick stop at the signals at TS would give me just enough time to leapfrog the train to East Washington Street, one of my go-to spots for an afternoon train on this line, like 783, now completely covered in somewhat good winter sun. Looking south, we can see Palm River, which at one point did utilize a movable bridge span for boat traffic, but now is a stationary structure after the addition of a water pipeline on the east side of the bridge. Years ago, a signal to govern trains across the bridge was installed, aptly named Palm River Holdout, and today it's still there and very operational, seeing plenty of action, like Y191, a yard job between Yeoman and Rockport yards with signals to return to Tampa, lighting up moments after the passing of 783.
Can you hear me?
Although 191 had permission into the yard from the Yeoman Yardmaster, the engineer would bring his Jeep 40-3 to a stop right in front of me in case I wanted to take any more pictures. Just another day out here with another very cool crew. With the locals out of the way, Amtrak 91 would be calling dispatch ready to leave Tampa, so I'd head over to the bypass canal just off of Broadway Avenue, where 91 and I would meet with about 30 seconds to spare. They have places to be today, just 3 hours behind schedule. As many of you area rail fans know, the winter sun in Tampa is pretty bad for northbounds in the evening, but after some driving around, I'd pull off at Seffner at the Kingsway Avenue crossing, where the A-line dips in and out of a small valley and emerges again in the middle of a clearing next to the busy MLK Avenue. Established in 1884, the railroad would first come to Seffner via Henry B. Plant's main line into Tampa, 12 miles to our west. With only 300 residents at the start, Seffner would be named after its first postmaster, Frederick P. Seffner, who would also advertise the small Tampa suburb, helping with the town's eventual growth. At one point, the ACL had a wooden depot here, which served passengers and hosted a telegraph and express office. The depot would meet its inevitable end in the late 70s, as after Amtrak assumed passenger service in 1971, Seffner was no longer a station stop. Nowadays, it's an ABS signal and the halfway point for trains between Tampa and Plant City. The usual dark signal north of town would be lit up this evening as train IO44 would be racing north with a load of fresh orange juice and intermodal for Jacksonville.
Taxi IO44 week, close to 5286. Clear, stop now. Come on, stop.
All would be going well for tonight's IO44 as they speed north up the A-line, but even then, as they cruise at 50 miles per hour, anything can still happen.
It went an emergency. We just got stopped. We'll let you know here in a second if it's back up on the rear there.
Unlike the M442 we chased about a month ago, it wouldn't be a hot axle or bad bearing that caused the delay, but it would end the exact same way, coming to a stop in the middle of a main line as soon as possible. Just north of Seffner, we'd pull off next to the end of the train around milepost 870, where the conductor would soon be. The cause of our stop today would be from the train randomly dumping its air, which by extension makes the air brakes on every single car of the train useless. That's more than enough to send the train into emergency, which is the process of PTC, or positive train control, immediately initiating the emergency brakes on the entire train to come to a safe stop as fast as possible. Because each car, no matter what type it is connected by air hoses located next to the couplers on each end of the car, airflow is maintained through the entire train, which makes starting and stopping easier and safer, as in this example, each car's brakes are applied, reducing inertia and frankly the wear and tear on the locomotive's brakes. So when this air pressure is essentially released, or dumped in railroad jargon, it stops the train for safety. Sometimes this can be from a broken or loose air hose along the train, which the conductor is currently searching for. But using the radio as our guide again, I'd soon figure out what was wrong.
6 over. Yeah, did that do it by itself? Yeah, it was coming up on the rear again, and it just went in emergency again. Yeah, it's got to be that EOT. Everything's looking good so far. All right.
So it's the end of train device, or EOT, causing the issues. These devices are the modern-day replacement for cabooses, as via radio telemetry, they send data to the train crew and the lead locomotive. This is called an armed connection in railroad terminology, when the lead locomotive is connected to the EOT to receive and send data, kind of like how your phone connects to a pair of headphones through Bluetooth. Now, according to my friend Michael Miller, a Tampa-based conductor for CSX, EOTs rarely malfunction, but it is possible, like in our case tonight. Part of the data that the EOT is constantly sending the crew is air pressure, to ensure all is working operationally at the end of the train, which can be anywhere from a couple car lengths away to miles. To read these measurements, the EOT has to be connected to the air pipeline at the end of the train, which is why when IO44's EOT malfunctioned, it started dumping the air out the back, sending it into emergency.
Alright, I'm at the bottom, 286, got 82 showing on the bottom right now. So wait till it pops, you know what I'm saying, man. If it's dumping 4 times, I'm not taking a chance. I know exactly. 4040 Yeoman, over. We think we got EOT problems. We went into emergency while we were running, reset everything, and started to pull, went about an engine length or 2, and it went in emergency again, and while we were charging it up a second time, just sitting still, went in emergency again, and it's done it 1 more time since, so 4 times total.
After a bit more checking and testing, the crew would agree that the EOT would have to be replaced with a different one out of Tampa.
Tio's on his way out here with an EOT. hopefully be out here in the next 10, 15 minutes.
Since Yeoman Yard is only 8 miles from our current location, the yardmaster would send out the MTO, or Master of Terminal Operations, often nicknamed the Trainmaster by crews. Obviously, this crew would know their MTO quite well, referring to him simply as Wayne. It soon would be decided that instead of having the Trainmaster pull off the busy MLK Avenue like we did, the engineer would disable PTC for a couple minutes and pull the train north about 6 car lengths to a private crossing, which would make for an easier and safer turnaround and parking space for the MTO and his forerunner.
Wayne's almost there. Copy that. I don't know how I'm able to get to him. It's quite a steep bank down the road, but... I-44? Yeah, Wayne, you want to pull up to that little private crossing just so we can get to this EOT easier?
Yeah, where's it at? I don't know where that little private crossing's at.
There was a car sitting in it. It's right up ahead there, about 6 car lengths.
Understood. I'll head up that way, sir.
At the bottom, clearly 3A, hit 6. On the bottom, 5286. Rolling.
A handoff of the EOT would soon take place, with the conductor getting his replacement and the MTO taking the malfunctioning one back to Tampa. Now the conductor installs the new EOT and gives the engineer the code on the side of it so that the lead engine, CSX 5286, connects and begins receiving data.
97478. 97478.
He said 97478.
Dialed in. Hit the button.
Once done, the conductor checks that the air pressure readings are stable and parallel to those in the cab, which is what the engineer is seeing. Now, ever since the crew pulled the train up to the little private crossing, the head end has been blocking the very busy Valrico Road, so the engineer backs up a few car lengths to let everything clear before the conductor gets a ride to the head end via the MTO.
On stop. Alright, copy that. Easing them down to a stop.
Back at the head end about a mile north, I-044 and its crew are ready to continue north to Jacksonville about an hour after stopping. Fortunately for them, this would be the last unscheduled stop on tonight's trek to Duval.
I got the conductor back on board, got the light swapped out, everything looks good, ready to proceed, over. 5 minutes, it's okay to proceed from where we stand, now exceeding 20 for one train length, over.
I-44 over.
44 over.
Yeah, the light working good.
Yeah, so far, over.
Alright, I'm gonna ride back down. I'm gonna be riding beside you back the other way. If I have to, I'll turn around and come back and get y'all.
That sounds good, we thank you, Wayne.
Sir, be safe.
We'll see you when we get back. Yeah, 4408, local 16, 53, 5826. Oh yeah, over, north. 44 over.
Alright, what? Y'all train look good. Everything was rolling, sir.
Right, we thank you.
Yes, sir. Y'all don't forget your train length. Be safe, gentlemen. I'll see y'all when y'all get back. MTO out.
44 down.
A couple weeks earlier, my dad and I would make the drive south to Tampa, as there was a chance that this day's I-044 would have a rebuilt SD-70 Mac leading. Well, it wouldn't take long for us to notice that the SD-70 was not on tonight's train, but we'd stick around to see what else the night would provide. First customer would be PO92, today running on time and using every bit of track speed, with engineer Aaron Carter at the controls.
Release 1730. I see you.
With 92 out of the way, I-044 would be lined up next, rolling north past what Tampa locals call the Model Airport, which no longer exists, but was at one point right across the tracks here. The The pile of rail in the foreground here would pique my interest, as looking further down the tracks there would be a pile of new tie plates, spikes, and a new switch. Now some of y'all know that CSX has been working around this portion of the A-line for over a year now, cutting down brush and leveling land next to the tracks. To some, it might be some casual landscaping, but to me, the amount of time they've been working and materials that are now trackside make me think something bigger is in store. Perhaps the 301 pass track is getting an upgrade, or Old Mango siding, now mostly used for storage, is getting extended. At this point though, only time will tell. Sunset would find me at the south end of CSX's Yeoman Yard as Y295 creeps out of the yard using an S-curve track to get from the S-line to the A-line. This track is called New Connection, which connects the old SAL and ACL yards together, making trains like this Y295's departure a lot easier than it would have been just a couple decades ago.
Alright, just FYI, you'll see an engine. I'll wait for you to get out.
3 minutes later, local L755 is at the door, coming off the Clearwater sub at 34th Street, now entering the yard, engines light after a day at Drew Park in North Tampa. 2 more minutes pass, and before 755 is even out of sight, R643 would round the curve off the AZA line. The Canadian National power on this train isn't rare, but the train itself is. This is soon to be B240, an empty potash train from Yeoman to the CN interchange in Chicago. But for now, was symboled R643, a Tampa unit train ID used for yard crews moving unit trains from the port and unloading area back and forth to the yard. One last train would be on the radar tonight, following us home to Lutz. The Brooksville local would be making his Tuesday night march up to the hills and forests of Brooksville, with 2 biodiesels leading another short train for CEMEX and a couple more industries along the way. I thank all of you viewers for watching this one. Hopefully you enjoyed and maybe learned something new about the railroad or how it works. Up next on the channel will be videos from my spring break trip up to Birmingham, so stay tuned. But for now, until we meet again trackside, this is Christian from Multicolor Films. End of transmission.